Rising from the Red Sea, the city of Jeddah stands as the major coastal port of Saudi Arabia. Abstract sculptures symbolize the country's advance towards the 21st century. Commissioned from some of the world's leading artists, they stand on the Alhambra Corniche Promenade, a popular area of Jeddah in the evenings and weekends. In the city centre, the government's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. In contrast, across the waters of the lagoon are some of the new buildings being constructed in the commercial centre of this, the fastest growing city in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The modern shopping plaza at the King Abdulaziz Street is just one of the many new shopping areas frequented by the local Jiddawis and visitors to the country. Nearby, the Queen's Building dominates the busy streets, bustling with a rhythmic flow of vehicles from such places as Japan, France, and America. The Cadillac is as familiar a sight as the yellow Toyota taxicab. Only a minute's walk away from all this is the ancient road to Mecca, which runs to the Souk Bazaar, or market, where you can still buy today a bargain from one of the 100 small shops lining the streets. From early in its history, Jeddah was a walled city, entered by the traveller through one of its 5 gates. Traders came to the port from all corners of the Muslim world. It was also the port of the Hajj, the great annual pilgrimage to Mecca. In this aerial view of 1947, the central walled city can clearly be seen. Soon afterwards, the wall, having fallen into ruins, was sadly demolished to make way for the expansion that we see today. But the old Jeddah can still be seen amidst the high-rise buildings. Some of the houses in the old quarter are over 200 years old, most having survived the developer's hammer. They were built to accommodate large families and display some of the finest architectural design of the period in terms of living standards and the use of natural materials. Arabian houses vary in style from region to region. The architectural tradition expressed in these tall houses of Jeddah is known as Hijazi style. Local artists and craftsmen created the unique designs, the most intricate carvings in teak wood for the doors and in decorated plaster for the carved stone door hoods, Ajd Morsha. Jeddah's old houses have 2 types of windows. The conventional casement with iron grills at ground floor level. The other is the Roshan, distinctive ornate wooden windows which project outwards from the wall of the building on the upper floors. Timber reinforcement was provided on the walls to support them. Antique woodworking skills can again be seen in the intricate redwood panels, cornices, eaves and shutters, and lattice screens, designed to permit the occupants to see without being seen. The Roshan of Jeddah are well known for their great height and size, as in this building, where the Roshan almost covers the facade in a stacked arrangement. Inside the Roshan can be found a window seat for the occupants to sit and look out on the street below. A private view of the world outside and cool ventilation through the open or shuttered window, which was distributed through the whole house by a unique system. The larger Roshan are used as sitting areas, where family and close friends can be entertained over a pot of tea. Many of the old buildings have withstood the hot sun and humid climate over the centuries. Some have been repaired and renovated. A wooden carved beam above the entrance records the date and year of repairs done on the house, like this one, which was restored in 1936. At the local University of King Abdulaziz in Jeddah, the Director of Environmental Design, Professor Hussein al-Sharkawi, has studied the old residential quarter in all its social, cultural, and environmental aspects. The natural materials and building methods used in the construction of the houses are of special interest to today's architect and builder.
This is the basic material most of these houses are made of. This is called the coral stone. Coral stone is taken from the sea, from the shelf, the coral shelf of the Red Sea. The characteristics of this stone that for the same volume you will get less weight and more insulating properties, simply because it's full of pores. And being the only material available at that time, it was used for building these houses. The people who built these houses, knowing that these stones cannot really sustain too much pressure, they have to work out a certain system where this pressure is distributed in order to maintain the stability of the wall. So they built the wall up to about a meter or meter and 20 centimeters, 3-4 feet high, and after that they put layers or a course of wood. The availability of the wood at that time wasn't that much, therefore they used natural wood in terms of tree trunks as we see in here. These tree trunks are running horizontal in both directions around the walls. The main purpose of this tree trunks or wood is, one, to work as a tie beam for the whole structure, two, to distribute the load coming from above on the lower part of the wall to ensure this kind of distribution and not single part of the wall is sustaining too much compression than the other, otherwise the whole thing will crumble. These tie beams have several functions aside from being structural, as we said before. Now, in my opinion, they provide the human scale in these buildings. And human scale here is very important because man would like to have something to relate to. And as we will see later on in other houses, that this always comes to this height of the human being. Therefore, anyone who is walking in the streets can relate to the buildings as part of the total environment. The dominant characteristics of Arab cities grew from the social and cultural heritage, the irregular rectangular building, the distinctive form of residential quarters, narrow winding streets, prominent mosques and souks, caravanserais, etc., gave the pre-industrial Arab town their distinctive character. Jeddah was no exception. This is a typical 5-story residential building. We are fortunate because it's partially torn down. It is a life-size section. The horizontal wooden tie beams, aside from their structural functions, they are utilized as shelves in the interior. They became a decorative element. A stairwell, usually in the center of the house, with 1 or 2 light wells adjacent to it to produce light to both the stair and the surrounding rooms. The light well itself, being small in cross-section and tall in height, works as a suction column. When the wind blows on the top of the house, the air is sucked from the well, causing a continuous air movement in the rooms through the windows. This ensures an efficient circulation of air, which is very much needed in the hot, humid climate of Jeddah.
The Nurwali house is one of the finest examples of the grand style of traditional family houses. A trading company now, run by three brothers, the family long gone. Mr. Nurwali today keeps the old house as a museum to the grandeur of days long since past. Up these steps once trudged not a man, but a horse, led up 5 flights to rest outside the door of the owner's living room. The house boasted 2 Turkish bathrooms with ornate ceilings in glass and plaster. On the top floor, Mr. Nurwali has gathered together a fine collection of antique china plates, glassware, and armory. Located nearby, on Shara al-Alawi, crossing the old souk, is the Nasif house. Once the tallest palace in the city with its 5 stories, the government has recently purchased the house with its remarkable library of Arab books.
It is a very old house in Jeddah and a famous house. The family of Nasif is a very big family, and my grandfather, Umar Afandi Nasif, who built this house. And after that, I have my grandfather, Sheikh Muhammad Nasif, who stayed in this house more than 80 years, and meeting with lawyers and every visitor, the big visitor to Saudi Arabia from each Islamic country.
The life of the city centers around the mosque, and at prayer time, the shops must close for about half an hour. Another common feature of these old buildings is the open rooftop, a living area where the family can sit in the late afternoon. In the days before air conditioning, the various areas provided a cool place for relaxation and even to sleep at night. Work is now beginning on a restoration program for the old city. Streets and pavements are being repaved with the finest modern marble, and granite sets are laid for the smaller streets.
هي المباني التاريخية، وقد قسمها إلى 3 أقسام كما ذكرنا سابقا، ووضح الخريطة بالألوان.
Mr. Sao, a commissioned study of the central area of Jeddah by a professional company produced some recommendations. 3 classes of buildings were defined: red, orange, yellow, referring to the importance and condition of the property. The white areas could be demolished, but must be replaced by traditional buildings, like the one shown in these artists' impressions. These are suggested designs to maintain the character of the area.
قامت الأمانة بإحضار إحدى الشركات الاستشارية المتخصصة وقامت هذه الشركة بدراسة المنطقة التاريخية.
Later, the municipality made a contract for an historical study of the whole area. Old houses, courtyards, the most important study. Much attention to detail was given and to maintaining the security, privacy and atmosphere of the environment. The relationship between the private and public spaces was observed. The study was for 1,000 houses, sorted into 3 classes. 50 first class, 200 second class, and the remainder were designated third class. The company suggested for a start a street lighting scheme in the style of the old-fashioned fittings, and to start the improvement schemes with new pavements and marble. The big problem is convincing the owners, 95% of whom live away from the old city and rent out the accommodation to the poorer people, to spend money to improve their properties.
بحسب أهمية المنزل من حيث الدراسة المعمارية التي به أو العناصر المعمارية الموجودة فيه، وكذلك من حيث موقعه، من حيث تاريخه، كذلك من حيث وضعه وسلامته من الناحية الإنشائية. فكان في حوالي 50 بيت من الدرجة الأولى و200 بيت الدرجة الثانية والباقي من الدرجة الأخرى، واستبعدت بعض المنازل نظرا لأنها في حالة سيئة جدا أو رديئة جدا. طبيعي كانت الدراسة أيضا مركزة على الممرات والشوارع، واقترحت الشركة تبليط المنطقة بالكامل بالحجر والجرانيت والرخام وبعض الأسفلت في بعض المناطق، وتخصيص بعض مواقف السيارات في داخل الأحياء، وكذلك التشجير والإنارة. وبعد الدراسة هذه طبعا قامت الأمانة بتنفيذ المشروع الجبار هذا، وابتدت بالتبليط اللي هو الجزء الأساسي في المنطقة.
The municipality of Jeddah decided to start with the platform pavement schemes, flowers, tree planting and lampstands.
فقط أكثر من 50% من الحواري، وبقي 50% وإن شاء الله خلال الفترة القادمة تنتهي، والإنارة شغالين فيها إن شاء الله، والزراعة شغالين على قدم وساق.
As a result of the reports and subsequent improvements to the old quarter, a new interest was awakened in reviving the skills of the old craftsmen, bringing the best traditions of the classical designs into the 20th century context. Workshops were established to manufacture the roshans for many of the new houses being built in Jeddah and other cities. Lord Mayor and pioneering architect of Jeddah, Sheikh Mohammed Said Farsi. What we must do is to look to our real selves, our traditional social life, our character. We must represent ourselves, not the ideas of other peoples. And this is our target. We should try to keep our own character without imitating other countries' ideas. Maybe it will be less effective in terms of methods, but it keeps our own flavor and our own identity. The owner of one of the finest modern houses in Jeddah is the principal of King Abdulaziz University. The idea for building this Islamic-style house was a dream of mine to evoke the old style today, to embrace the best of the old and the new. The design was based on the Islamic style and wasn't easy to achieve. It involved many people in the design work and the problem of finding suitable labor. For example, the woodwork was a difficult job when we started because there were no workshops producing the traditional wood. After I finalized the designs for the wood, the craftsman brought a machine onto the actual building site to make all the wood panels. This took 6 months. Piece by piece, every part was handmade, and we had to experiment to find the best materials to use. This house was only started in 1976 and is in effect a 20th century version of the Nasif house we saw earlier. In the evenings, the children can play in the cool of the small sheltered courtyards without the fear of the traffic. Spaces which were once accessible by car can now again be used by people as central communal meeting places for talking, pausing a while, or relaxing over a game of cards. In this film, we have seen only the beginning of work on the old residential quarter, a very special improvement scheme bringing praise from environmental experts throughout the world, which will in the future attract the discerning tourist and traveler to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and to Jeddah, bride of the Red Sea.